Oh, no, y'all. This ain't the same Simone Biles we all once respected, is it? Can't be. This woman who used to stand against abuse is now attacking women just for standing up against their rights. Come on, y'all. She called Larry Gaines a bully. Meanwhile, she's the one out here pushing policies that erase everything that she once fought for. Well, virtue signaling, man. It's backfiring, though, and the internet is not letting it slide. So let's get into it. Let's start here. This is the moment that made millions respect Simone Biles. This was her standing up against the system that protected a predator. Listen to this. She was direct and very clear.
A survivor of sexual abuse, and I believe without a doubt that the circumstances that led to my abuse and allowed it to continue are directly the result of the fact that the organizations created by Congress to oversee and protect me as an athlete, USA Gymnastics and the United States Olympic and Paralympic Committee failed to do their jobs. I don't want another young gymnast, Olympic athlete, or any individual to experience the horror that I and hundreds of others have endured before, during, and continuing to this day in the wake of the Larry Nassar abuse. To be clear,
Take your time.
To be clear, I blame Larry Nassar, and I also blame an entire system that enabled and perpetrated his abuse.
Oh, man, and if you know the story,
I am also a survivor
I
of
agree
sexual
that
abuse.
he needs to be locked away forever. However, look at the tweet that Simone posted yesterday. You're truly sick. All of this campaigning because you lost the race. Straight up sore loser. You should be uplifting the trans community and perhaps finding a way to make sports inclusive or creating a new avenue where trans feel safe in sports. Maybe a transgender category in all sports, but instead you bully them. One thing's for sure is no one in sports is safe with you around. Now, Larry Gaines did respond. Go ahead and, make it clear for y'all real quick. She said, to make my position, very clear. I meant to, before I read this, I meant to say she's responding to this clip directly. To make my position on both topics very, very clear, I hope Larry Nassar spends the rest of his life rotting away in miserable prison. Gymnasts were failed by a system that protected an abusive man at the expense of the girl's safety. Men don't belong in women's sports. Female athletes continue to be failed by a system that protects abusive men at the expense of the girl's safety. Now, referring to the clip, she says she never wanted another young woman to suffer the way that she did. But now, look at who she's defended. Watch this next one. Or look at this next one, rather. Larry Gaines fired back at the original tweet. All the horrific sexual abuse Simone Biles witnessed and spoke out against caused by one man, yet believes women should be forced to strip naked in front of men to validate the men's feelings. You know how many gold medals you'd have if your inclusive dream came true? 0. Ouch. Ooh. Oh, Larry Gaines, who's been on the front lines defending women's sports, she ain't hold back, not even a little bit. And honestly, she's not wrong. I agree. If biological men were allowed in women's gymnastics, Simone wouldn't have a single podium spot. And you know what? It stings. I know it stings. You know why? Because it's true. Simone built her legacy under the protection of Title IX. Now she's trying to strip that same protection from girls coming up from behind her. Now, let's zoom out a little bit. This ain't Simone. This is the mindset that has infected the media, too. Now, watch how CNN tries to gaslight the nation into thinking there's no biological advantage. Peep.
To comply with federal law to accept federal funds.
What would make this fair? For her to compete, for those who are competing against her? What would that kind of structure in competition look like?
Who is her?
AB.
Okay, AB Hernandez is a male who identifies as a female. What would be fair is to have Hernandez competing in the male category. It is not fair to the females competing to have to compete with a male.
Okay, so in Trump's federal funding threat, is that something, though, that would hurt all student athletes, including athletes who are assigned female at birth?
Would his federal funding threat hurt athletes?
If the money is taken away.
Right. So the law actually says that schools that do not abide Title IX or other federal laws cannot receive federal funds. So that's not Trump's fault. The problem is that the state with AB 1266.
But you understand, Julie, there's two views here on Title IX. So just to be clear, not everyone agrees with you on how you're viewing it. So in that regard, if you were to take away the funding on as it pertains to trans athletes, not everyone agrees with you. I think we just have to be clear about that. If you are taking away the funds for athletes, student athletes in California, isn't that going to hurt all of them?
Taking away federal funds is going to hurt all California kids, which is why the state of California needs to comply with federal law. It's very simple.
So when you dig into the science on trans athletes, what is really clear is that there needs to be a lot more research on a lot more trans athletes to be able to draw better conclusions about the effect of whether gender-affirming care actually reduces or eliminates the advantage conferred on an athlete who is genetically male. Would you welcome more research? Is this a situation where more research might help?
I absolutely think that more research and more careful and thoughtful discussion is necessary here. Pediatric sex change procedures are very harmful and they cause lifelong damage to children. And this is something that the United States of America needs to examine thoughtfully, and people need to be able to discuss openly without being called bigots and transphobes.
Yeah, totally hear you. So there are obviously clear benefits to playing sports, to competing in sports. So when you're looking at an athlete like AB Hernandez, what would you have her do so that she can benefit from sporting?
I view AB Hernandez as the victim in this situation. I feel for him, and I feel that he has been lied to for his entire life, and it's probably very destabilizing and difficult for him right now to realize that what he's been told is not actually reality. He cannot become a girl. What he can do is compete in the male category.
Okay,
or
let's stick to sports. So you say compete in the male category, or what?
Or if the state and CIF want to create a separate category for people like AB Hernandez, and that's something that they want to do, fine. It is not fair to female athletes who have worked their entire lives for this kind of competition, who also, by the way, cannot speak out for fear of retaliation, which AB Hernandez's mother has personally threatened against them. So it's very unfair for our girls and women in California to have to compete with males, have to share facilities with males, and then not be able to speak up about the unfairness because people are going to label them as bigots.
Julie Hamill, thank you so much for being with us. We appreciate it.
More study? Really? We've known for decades men have stronger muscle mass, higher lung capacity, and faster twitch responses. I'm telling you, man, they need more study to figure out what a 10-year-old can tell you after one foot race. Delusion at its finest, man. That's not science. That's agenda. And as DRB15 below in the comments wrote, on a related note, CNN just registered their lowest ratings in 46 years. But now this is where the mic gets dropped, okay?
So
Let me
Simone
pause
Biles,
it real quick. I played it a little too quick. This is where the mic get dropped. Olivia, she ain't finna hold back, y'all. She says what a lot of people are scared to say.
So Simone Biles, who succeeded in gymnastics because of rules like Title IX, is mad at Larry Gaines for protecting Title IX. And this is the same person who was assaulted by a male in her sport, but is totally okay and is advocating for men to dress as women and go into their sports in locker rooms and bathrooms. And then goes on to essentially body shame Riley, who is 5'5", by the way, when she's 4'8". She's a literal hobbit and is trying to say that Riley should bully men because men are her size. If that's the case, I'm 5'9". What the heck am I supposed to bully? I would say Harry Sisson, but he's probably like 5'6". I also just like to point out that Simone would never be in this position if men were competing in her sport. She would never have all these gold medals and be as successful if men were competing in women's gymnastics. And the only reason we don't see trans women competing in women's gymnastics is because if they fell on the beam, it would hit them where it hurt.
Ow!
And I would be so embarrassed to be her future daughters, knowing that your mother was the person who actively fought to take away your opportunities and your rights in women's athletics, to take away your ability to have podium spots and awards, to win scholarships, to win competitions, to change in a locker room without men being in there. And you mentioned having a third category for transgenders. That is just not possible for a couple reasons. First of all, women's sports are already struggling to find financials and to find people to even watch them to begin with. So why would we create a third category that wouldn't be able to function? And two, creating a third category for transgenders is feeding into delusions. And it's just another category for men to win. We're even seeing with the Boston Marathon, the men's category, women's category, and they have a third category for like gender fluid or something stupid like that. That's 3 categories for men to win.
Yeah, all of this is just delusion at its finest. Anybody playing into this delusion is just cuckoo for Cocoa Puffs. And you can tell them I said it. And I mean every word of that. The fact that you want a man competing in your space, that's a little bit weird. I'm just saying, that's weird right there. I don't want to sit there and compete with a woman in a sport. I mean, we could probably compete at some Uno, some Monopoly, you know what I mean? We could probably even race to the car if we could get to the car the quickest, you know? Hey, I tell you what, we could race to pay the bill. You could compete. No, but she's right. Simone is safe now. But the girls coming up behind her, they're getting pushed out of their own sports and their own locker rooms. And you know it's bad when a former elite gymnast start calling you out. Jennifer Say supported Simone for years. Not anymore. Watch.
So, Simone Biles decided to go to war with Riley Gaines on yesterday. I'm not sure why she doesn't tweet much, but she did. What did she say? Well, she went on a tear. She called Riley sick for advocating for the protection of women's sports, and then Simone goes on to say that Riley should be advocating for a third category for trans people so they can feel safe in sports. Simone, just know, women are not responsible for making men feel safe in women's sports. Women are not responsible for validating male identities, especially not the ones who think they are women. Those men can compete in men's like all the other men. You know there's a reason why men's gymnastics events are different than women's, right? There's rings, there's pommel horse, because men have greater upper body strength. They are stronger. That's why there's separate categories. Then Simone goes on to body shame Riley, which is really a low point. Nice supportive women, Simone. Riley is a perfectly normal-sized woman at about 5'5". Yes, she is short for a swimmer, at least for an actual female swimmer, unlike Will Thomas, a man who is well over 6 feet tall. Look, I was a gymnast, not a bad one, not a great one. I was a 7-time national team member and the 86 national champion. No candle to your achievements. Certainly, you are the GOAT. There is no doubt about that. I was the first elite gymnast to speak out about abuse in the sport way before it was safe, back in 2008, and the entire community turned on me. So I am grateful for your voice on this matter. And I've heard Riley defend you over and over as the GOAT when others have torn you down, despite the fact that you don't have the same politics, because Riley is an honest broker and a good person. I have defended you time and again for bailing at the Olympics, and you know why? Because I felt it was a bookend to Carrie Strug competing on a serious injury in '96, and I felt it was important that female athletes take control of their own bodies for their own safety. I've had the twisties. I know what it's like. But you know what? You are no hero. You are pulling up the ladder for the female athletes that came after you. And since you made it personal and nasty with Riley, I am going to say it. Why didn't you stand up for Rachel Denhollander and Jamie Dancher when they first spoke up about Nassar? They got torn to shreds. They were demonized as liars and grifters, and you said nothing. You waited. You waited until it was safe. You didn't say anything publicly until after Nassar was sentenced. You let hundreds of girls twist in the wind. Look, I don't think anyone has to come forward about abuse until they are ready. But if you're going to tear my friend Riley down for standing up for women, for their right to compete safely, then I am going to raise it. You let those women get torn apart, those other gymnasts. You could have stopped the bullying instantly with your credibility as a world champion and Olympian. But you didn't do it. You let those women get destroyed. So you may be the GOAT as a gymnast, but you are no hero. Not to me. Not anymore.
Ouch. Oh, my gosh. I'm going to just let that marinate for about 5-6 seconds. Wow. I don't see how it's possible for Simone not to realize that she's advocating against herself and literally the values that she fought to protect against. But that was the word right there. Safe. She did it when she was safe, or felt like she was safe. Simone's version of safety is women getting silenced if they don't fall in line. And ain't no crown worth that kind of betrayal. I'm going to just tell you that right now. Simone Biles helped take down a predator. And now it seems that she's defending the system that's putting young women back in danger. And this time, it's in the name of inclusion. They try to make it seem like we're just trying to tear down anybody who feel like they're different. That's not really the case, man. We just everybody trying to make us fall in line with these delusions. And on top of that, you leaking that into sports and denying women real opportunities. That's why I say inclusion it shouldn't mean erasing girls. It doesn't mean mocking Riley Gaines for doing what Simone used to do, which was stand up, speak out, and protect women. You don't get to play hero and then turn villain just because Twitter told you to, man. I don't care if they sound harsh, man. Good shit, because women deserve better. If anybody else gonna see it. Y'all, please, if you stand with women's sports, hit like, share this video, and subscribe, because we not stopping here. Truly appreciate y'all, and sharing these videos will help extend the reach and everything. So it's Simone Biles, a hero, or is she just a puppet to the narrative? Drop your comments, let me know. Also, go check on somebody today. You could be saving their life. Be safe.